We're talking today with Bruce Watt, the vet with the Tablelands Livestock Health and Pest Authority. And we're talking about some animal health disease issues, parasite issues that you're encountering. What do you class as the big three animal health issues on the central tablelands, Bruce?
The big three are, and this applies to most of southern Australia, are internal parasites, so that's worms, blowflies and lice. They're the big three.
So let's look at worms and which type of worms, and are you seeing a trend towards a different type of worm on the tablelands, and particularly at a different time of the year?
Well, Bruce, there's a short-term trend. We're seeing quite a bit of Barber's poleworm at the moment, because the last two summers have been very favourable for Barber's poleworm. But I think that's simply a seasonal fluctuation. The other worms can be significant problems, underlying problems most of the time.
Now, lice. You've done a lot of survey work on the tablelands. What are you finding when it comes to the amount of properties that are infested with lice?
We found about 18% of properties have got lice that we can find at shearing, but we know that there's some at a very low level that we don't pick up. We think there's could be another 10%. So the real level approaches 30%.
So what are you finding that producers are doing wrong when it comes to lice control and lice management?
That's an area we're working on, and that's an important and interesting area. Some producers don't seem to have the technical ability to dip all sheep with an effective product and get everything. That's only a small proportion. Some people buy in lice, particularly people that regularly buy in big numbers of sheep, because our level of 30% is the same as probably similar to across the state, if not higher. So that means if you're buying any number of sheep, you're in a lottery every time, and chances are you'll buy lice. So people, particularly prime lamb producers that buy first cross ewes, they will buy lice if they buy enough sheep. So that's the other. And some people make lice control very difficult because they shear immediately in front of lambing, and that means they've got limited options in lice control. It's harder for them to eradicate lice.
Just going back to worm control, and what issues there are you encountering with producers and the management of worms?
Well, an important thing is that we've got drench resistance is continuing. I mean, we've been discussing drench resistance for 20 years or more, 30 years probably, and knowing that it's a continuing problem. It's a continuing arms race between worms and us trying to control them. And so the latest batch of chemicals we've got resistance, for example, now to ivermectin very widely in Barber's poleworm. We've got to resort to new strategies, smarter strategies, and combination drenches, drenching only when we have to, and drenching with the right amount of drench, and trying to have an integrated parasite approach to worm control rather than simply relying on drenches.
We've had a couple of wetter summers, and springs have been a bit hotter and drier than on particularly average. What are you noticing with blowfly issues?
Blowflies certainly can be a major problem. Fortunately, most people are familiar with good blowfly management, and we've got some excellent chemicals there now that so people know that blowflies emerge from our soils when temperatures get above about 15 degrees. So that's in, say, probably somewhere in September. From then on, if you've got susceptible sheep and the weather's right, you can get a fly strike wave. So we know that we've got to have sheep ready to resist flies from about then on, either through controlling wool length or with breeding or with chemicals, or a combination.
Are you finding that a lot more producers are using a chemical control if they've got reasonable wool length to manage flies?
Some are, but I think there's an interesting trend with merino producers that if you've got merinos that have got some degree of selection and breeding for fly resistance, particularly in mature merinos, a lot of those producers are able to manage without chemicals. So, with young sheep, it's much more difficult, and they need chemical help. But the aim is to not have. You can certainly get good results with breeding and selection and good management as well. And obviously things like worm control are important, because if you've got diarrhoea in sheep, then they will be susceptible to fly strike. So, yeah.
Bruce Watt, thanks for talking with us today.
Thank you, Bruce.